everybody, I'm Corinne Blackstone and welcome to my craft room. I'm so happy to have you here today, and before we get started, be sure that you're subscribed here on YouTube. Just hit that little subscribe button right over there. It is completely free to subscribe and I would love to have you as part of my crafty family. Now in today's video, we're going to be using some really cool Puff HTV, and the kicker, it glows in the dark. It's so fun and I cannot wait to show you how cool it is and how easy it is to work with. Now, are you somebody who loves to wear Halloween shirts all through October? Do you start wearing them in September? Let me know in those comments. I'm definitely a person who has been known to wear a Halloween shirt in the middle of July, so I love Halloween. It's my favorite holiday. Now we're going to make two different designs so that you can see a couple of different ways to use the puff and also a couple different ways to use Design Space. We're going to make this trick or treat shirt and we're also going to make this double toil and trouble hoodie. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to be using Design Space to make two fun little designs that we're going to use with the glow in the dark puff from WALAKut. This is such a fun process. I love doing it, and I'm going to link everything down below. So what we're going to do first is start with some text. We're going to do two different designs so I can show you two different ways to do this. So the first one we're going to do, I'm going to go ahead and use the words trick or treat. Now I want each word to be on its own line, and we're going to use the warp feature here in Design Space. But I don't want to use the Design Space Cricut Sans font. It's ugly, it's boring, I just don't want to use it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go under my fonts and I'm going to choose a system font. Now I love my system fonts, but you'll notice that sometimes it'll do this, especially if you accidentally click system when you're already in there. Just click off of that and go back to system fonts and it should load them again. Now you can download fonts, add fonts, use fonts that you already have on your computer, but I did pre-do this design just to make it a little bit easier, so I kind of knew what I wanted it to look like. And I really liked the font Cooper Black for this. I think it worked really, really well. Now granted, I know the name, so I don't necessarily have to scroll, but I can scroll through and just see if maybe something else catches my eye in the meantime. But I really think that the Cooper Black was like the perfect, adorable little font for this. So I'm going to choose that, and it's going to change my font over here. Now it's really far apart and I don't love that, so I'm going to change my line spacing up here. And you can just change it to negative numbers. So I usually go about like -6, but I think I want them a little closer, so I'm going to try -8. And I think that's about that spacing that I want. I don't want them really far apart, especially using the warp feature. Now what I'm going to do is go to warp, which is in the middle of your screen at the very top, and click on that. And then I like to use this one here, number 11. I think that's a really good version of the warp. Now this is way more warped than I want it to be. I don't want it to be quite that wavy. So I can adjust it down here at the bottom just with this little slide bar. And you can just kind of pull it over and it will change the amount of warp on your words. So you can really warp them a lot, warp them none. If you do 100% warp, it should change it. It's just, you play with it a little bit. See what you like, because you can see here like 62, bit much. But if I go all the way down to 0, it's a little bit less. So you just sort of play with it and figure out where you want it to be. Now you are going to need to give it a little bit of time to adjust between each of your different movements. And I think for this one, I think 40 is about where I want it. I don't want it super wavy, but I want it a little bit wavy. So I think that this is a really good option. So now that I'm happy with the warp, what I want to do is add an offset to this, because I think an offset's going to make this really fun, and we're going to add a couple little elements just to make it more spooky Halloween. So I'm going to go ahead and choose offset, and same with warp, and even if you use curve and things, you can adjust your offset to either be larger or you can make it smaller. It's really up to you and the way you want it to look. But I want kind of a thick one, so I want to go a little bit thicker, but I don't think I want it quite that thick. I may go with the 0.25. I think that'll be okay, but I think I want it just a little bit bigger because I want to be able to just fill in all the little holes and have everything touch. So I'm going to go ahead and click apply, and I'm pretty happy with that. And I could leave the holes if I want to, or I could take them out. But honestly, I kind of like them. So I'm going to go ahead and leave those in. I think they actually look okay on this design. Now, just for visual purposes, I'm going to change the color of my wording. I'm going to be using the hot pink color for our trick or treat words because I love it. I think it's really fun and it's going to be such a fun puff. So what I'm going to do is click advanced, and you can actually adjust your colors down here in the advanced options, or if you know the hex code for your color, you can also type it in there. Now I don't know the hex code for it. I just want to do it so I can kind of get a visual idea of what I want my design to look like. Now it's cute, but it's a little bit plain, and I think I want to add some spider webs. So I'm going to use some images from Design Space. I'm just going to go into images, and all I want to do is I'm going to search Spiderweb, and it should bring up a bunch of different options. Now, like I said, I pre-made this design, but it's probably not going to look exactly the same as the first one I did. I just wanted to play with it, and I always think that's a fun way. You just kind of play around with stuff and figure out what works. Now, for this, I only want like a single layered spider web. So what I'm going to do is go under layers, and I'm just going to choose single, and that'll reduce the images down to ones that are just one single layer, not multiple layers, don't have lots of detail to them, stuff like that. So what I want to do is find the spider webs that I like and want to use for this. You can use whatever style you want. If you want to add spider webs, you don't have to. Really, really up to you and how you want to do it. I think I like the style of this spider web, but I also want kind of a corner one. So I think I like this one. Those look kind of similar in thickness. So I'm going to go ahead and click add to canvas. Now that my spider webs are here, I can definitely resize them because they're obviously way too big. So let's start with this kind of corner shaped one. I think I'm going to put him next to like by the T's. So I'm going to size it down. And what I want is I want it to fit so that it's kind of sticking out a little bit, but I do want it to connect to our offset. So I think that looks pretty good. I don't mind that these little edges are hanging out. I think that looks pretty good. So I want to do the same thing with this rounder one, and I want to just get it in between the K and the T, kind of down here at the end. But again, I don't want it to be like really, really small, but I also don't want it to be really, really huge. I just want it to connect a little bit in here, and I think I'm going to add it to the R a little. Okay, I think that's pretty good. I might, you know what, I might pull it back out a little. You can kind of play with it and figure out where you want it to be. It doesn't have to be exactly, you know, the same as mine or even at all like mine if you don't want it to be. You know, I sort of like it like that, actually. I think I like it a little bit bigger. Now, what you want to do, because this is all going to cut as one piece, the black parts. So what I want to do is I'm going to select the spider webs, and I want to select the offset. And I'm doing that by holding shift on my keyboard and clicking the different layers in my layers panel. And then I want to go down to combine, and I want to weld them. Now it is going to end up looking like your pink text disappears, but don't worry, it's just under your black part. So you can either drag it in the layers panel over here, or you can right click on your black layer and send that to the back. But you can see here that that's our design ready to go. Now we're using HTV, so of course we need to mirror it. And you know me, I hate using the mirror feature on the Make It screen. So I always just simply flip my design horizontally. Now you'll notice that it only flipped part of it because I only had one part selected. That's okay, it happens. Just go ahead and flip that other part and flip that part horizontally. Then what I want to do before I do anything else is I'm going to click save, and I'm going to save this as Puff Glow. That way I know what it is, and click save. Now, like I said, we're going to do 2 of these because I think I found some really fun ways to do these designs. And I just thought, what a cool, fun thing to do. And I can teach you how to design a couple different things. So I'm going to slide this guy way out of the way. We don't need him. He's just in the way. The next one we're going to design, we're going to use another image from Design Space that I thought was really fun. I'm going to use a cauldron, and I'm going to show you how we're going to make this really cool kind of round design using curve in Design Space. I just think it's really fun. It's an easy way to do this, and I just think it's a good time. So now for this one, I want to use a multi-layered one, so I'm going to just remove single layer, but I'm just going to go ahead and allow it to show me the single layered ones as well. Now I know I want a cauldron that has some like green goo in it, but I really don't want to do a lot of color because of the way I'm going to design this. So I'm going to go ahead and just find one that I like. I don't love the face on that one. And what's fun, Design Space has so many great designs now that honestly, you can probably find something that will work for your design. Like I like this one here, so let's go with that, and I'm going to add this to the canvas. What's really cool is that green is going to puff and it's going to glow, so it's going to look really cool when we design this. Now I'm going to go ahead and size this down a little bit, and I want to add some text around it in a little circle. So all I'm going to do is type out my text, and I'm going to use that same font. So I'm going to do double, double, toil, and trouble. And I want to make sure to put a space after the word trouble, or it looks like the two end words are connected. Then I want to go ahead and I'm going to size this down. You can see it's really, really wide. I'm just going to change the width to 10 really quick, and I'm going to curve it. Now I want this to be a complete circle, so I'm going to just curve it. Now, depending on which way you curve it, it's going to depend on which way your letters go. So depending on which way you want it to read, depends on which way you want your letters to go. I prefer it to go this direction, but if you would rather have the tops of the letters going around versus the bottoms of the letters, do what you like, do what makes you happy. There's no wrong way. Once I've made my complete circle, what I want to do is I want to select the font, and then I just want to size it so that it fits around my cauldron. And I just want to kind of get it where I'm happy. I think that looks pretty good. Now, I don't like that it starts down here to read it. I would like to read it up at the top. So what I'm going to do is use my rotate, and I'm just going to rotate it until I'm happy with where the double and double start. Now, if you want it to be a little more centered with the double double, you can do it that way, but I don't think I like that quite as much. I personally would rather it start a little bit more centered on the sides. You can center it on the top or the sides. It's up to you. Like I said, there's no wrong way. It's whatever you like and whatever way you want it to be. I'm going to make this just a little bit bigger because I am going to be adding an offset to this. Now, what's fun about this, you can do any color you want, so have fun with it. But again, we're going to be using the glow in the dark, so I think we're going to do something really cool. But I do want to add an offset. I really like to do offsets with the puff because I think it really makes it stand out a little bit more. And I just personally like the way an offset looks on a shirt. I'm going to go ahead and size this down. And this offset, I want to be pretty thin. I don't want a really thick offset, and it will look a little bit thinner once the letters puff. So I think that looks pretty good as far as like how I want my offset to be. So I'm going to go ahead and apply that. Now, the more I think about it, the more I think I kind of want the trick or treat one. I think I want this one to be blue, and I think I want the other one to be pink. Because we have some really great glow colors. There's tons to choose from. But I do think that I really want this one to be more in the pink world. I think that it will look a little bit better. I wanted to point out something before we moved on. When I changed the color, did you notice how my warp changed? All I ended up having to do was unflip it and then flip it back again. So just be aware that when you change color sometimes, it might mess up your mirroring. So just double check that before you move on to actually cutting, because you don't want to waste material. Just one of those weird little Cricut quirks. So just pay attention. So I want to make this one bright pink because I think that'll be really fun. So I'm going to go ahead and just, again, sort of play with the color, advance, just make it pink. I think that looks really, really good. Now, I do want to make sure that I attach my black parts, but you need to do one other thing before you do that. Because your cauldron is grouped, you're going to need to ungroup it, or it's going to turn the green goo into black. So what I want to do is click ungroup up here, which is these two little squares. Then I want to grab my black cauldron and my black offset, and all I'm going to simply do is attach. Now, again, you can weld, you can do whatever you want to do. It's up to you. Now, again, it's going to look like the green and the pink went away. Just right click on this and send it to the back. And you'll see here that everything looks good to go. Then I want to select my design, and what I want to do is go to flip, and I'm going to flip it horizontally. You'll see that that mirrors everything, which because we're working with HTV, that's what we want to do. Now we have our trick or treat, and then we also have the double, double, toil, and trouble cauldron, which are going to be really fun. So from here, all we have to do is click the word make it. Now give it a second to load because this one has a couple of colors, and we're going to be cutting a couple of different mats on this. So we have the double, double, toil, and trouble black mat, and then we also have the trick or treat. But then we also have our puff, which is going to be our bright green. We have our blue puff for our trick or treat. And then we have our pink puff for the double, double, toil, and trouble. Now we're going to be using WALAKut for all of this from Heat Transfer Warehouse. I'm going to link everything down below. This glow puff is so cool. I think you're going to love it. And it's really going to bring that little pop of fun and dimension, not to mention glow, to your projects. So let's go ahead over to the Cricut and I'm gonna show you how to cut all of this out. We're gonna be cutting our black first, so it's super important to know which side you put down. So if you're unsure, you can always peel back a corner, but with this HTV, you wanna put carrier sheet side down. So I'm gonna go ahead and load it on to my mat. Didn't get that fully straight, but that's okay. Now I do have a bunch of bubbles in it, so I'm just gonna press those out just to make sure that it cuts nice and neat. And we're gonna go ahead and load this, and I cut this on the everyday iron-on setting. First thing that you'll want to do is line up your design onto your shirt. So obviously we weeded, and all I like to just fold them in half, and that helps me figure out where center is on the design. So this one's a little bit different because this hangs out to the side. So we're really lining up the spider web to the edge. And then I'm just gonna put a little crease up here at the top. You don't wanna crease the HTV. I just crease the carrier sheet a little bit. And that helps me line it up with the center. You wanna go about 3 fingers down from your collar, and then I just use my hands and kind of eyeball it. I've always been really pretty good about eyeballing things, so I don't really over stress too much because for whatever reason, I've always been pretty good at it. I can usually tell you when a picture isn't straight on the wall or you're not parked straight. It's just something I've always been able to do. And then I always just kind of do a really quick look and dry fit just to make sure that I weeded everything and that everything looks like it's gonna fit together really well. I'm already like obsessed. This looks so cute. I know you guys have a big glare, but it will look so adorable when this is done. So I'm gonna go ahead and take the blue off because we want to just press the black first. We're gonna press the black for just a couple of seconds. We're gonna do it very, very quickly. That way it doesn't shrink, and then we can add the black or the blue glow on top, and that's gonna be our puff. I'm super excited. I'm gonna take you guys over to the heat press, but I will show you how to do the other shirt really quick as well, and then we'll press both of them just kind of in a row. Now we're using a purple hoodie for this one, and I want to give you a quick little tip when putting things centered on hoodies. Do not center based on the pocket. The pocket is not centered ever. It's just the way hoodies are. Their pockets are never centered no matter how much you want them to be. I've yet to find one that actually is centered. So I center with the hood and the collar, and that's usually going to give you your best center option. Now our first layer is, of course, our Cauldron, which this should be pretty simple to figure out center because all you have to do is just fold it in half, match up the sides of the circle, and give it a little crease. And you can see that it's just right on the edge of the letter D there. So I always put this, again, about 3 fingers down from the collar, and then I use these sleeves to help me center. Now this one being a little bit wider is a little harder for me because I have to kind of just judge with my fingers, but honestly, I think that looks pretty good, pretty centered. And then again, I just sort of dry fit stuff just so that we can see what it looks like. So this bubbly stuff is gonna be puff. And then you'll notice that I cut out the center of this because I didn't want to waste all of that HTV. That was really good quality, pretty big spot of HTV, so I just didn't want to waste it. And then I'm not going to set this on here completely straight, like it's not even close right now, which is fine. I just want to make sure that I kind of got all of the areas weeded that needed weeded, and that it looks like it'll fit. If all else fails and you're having trouble with it being cut like this, you can cut it in a couple more spots, and that may make it easier for you to lay it down. And I may end up doing that if I have trouble with it that way. But again, we're gonna remove all of the extra pieces, set those to the side, and this will be the first part that we press because we just wanna give this one a really quick press, and then we can come in and do the other pieces. Now we're going to need to do this part and the pink together so that we're not pressing the puff more than once. So let's go ahead over to the heat press and get ready to press our shirts. We're ready to press the first layer of our pink shirt, which is the trick or treat. So I'm gonna go ahead and press this. Like I said, this first layer you press for just a couple of seconds. And for this layer, I do like a medium pressure. You don't need to do anything super firm on it, but I just press it just enough for it to stick. And then this one is a warm peel, so we're just gonna carefully peel just to make sure that nothing comes up. That way we can have this really cool base. And then I always want to re-straighten my shirt because I usually tend to pull it a little bit when I do that. Now I want to turn my pressure up because we're using a firm pressure, so I'm going to just turn this dial just like a turnish and a half, and that should give us some good firm pressure. Now I want to line up my design onto my shirt. That looks so perfect. Now for this one, we're going to do a full press at 280 degrees for about 10 seconds. Now this is a hot peel product, so as soon as we pull this up, we're going to go ahead and peel that carrier sheet off of it. And it should puff up a little bit after you put that carrier sheet off, because you do need to let that kind of cool down a little bit, and it will puff as it cools. Now we're ready to press our hoodie. I've made sure that my hood is all the way over here and that my strings are off of my press, and I want to make sure that there are no like thick seams on my design here, under it, anywhere like that. So I just always double check. And then like I said before, this press is done just really quickly. I'm just going to leave this on the firm pressure, but I just do a couple of seconds and then I pull it up because you don't want this one to shrink, because that can cause problems, like things won't line up. Just be a big old messy mess, and we definitely don't want that. Now I'm going to go ahead and line up my green part first, and then I'm going to come back and do the pink, because I think the pink's going to take me a second, because I want to make sure that I get it lined up just right. The green's pretty easy because it kind of can go anywhere, but the pink might be a little harder because of the fact that we have to line it up with all of the letters. And like I said, working with this bigger piece might be a little too much for you, and if it is, that's okay. Just trim them, because like I can already tell you, like this seems like a pain, but I didn't want to lose out on all of the HTV that I had in between. So what I might end up doing, because I can see right now, like doing it this way, I'm not getting a good line. All I want to do is I'm just going to cut apart the words. It's just going to be a little easier to line everything up if I'm just working with one word at a time versus an entire big section. You can absolutely do that. There's no rule against it. Just make sure that you're not cutting through your HTV. So I'm just going to slide that over, and I just can go line by line now, so word by word, and I'm just lining everything up. And you can see how much smoother this is going to go. And like I said, this will be much easier especially if you're struggling a little bit to get them to line up. You can absolutely just trim them down. Now, I will caution you to make sure that there is no HTV carrier sheet under any of the other HTV. So I just trimmed a little bit off just to be safe on the word toil. I don't think it was going to be under there, but it was over the E, and I just don't want to end up with a spot that doesn't stick because I wasn't paying attention and there was some HTV under other like carrier sheets. Now I do think, I wasn't going to, but I do think I'm going to go ahead and cut this apart to the double. Now a lot of people worry with doing work with a clamshell press that you're going to burn yourself. You'll notice that I'm under this press, no problems, not burning myself. I have only burned myself one time on this press, and it was my own stupid fault. It wasn't me doing anything to do with putting stuff down on shirts. It was legitimately me reaching for something that was on the press. So just something to keep in mind. Now I will say I just messed that up. So let me go ahead and get this all lined up, and we'll get it ready to press. We're going to go ahead and press this for that full 10 seconds with that firm pressure. And now we're going to go ahead and lift, and we're going to pull off all of our carrier sheets. Now there are quite a few, so just go ahead and pull all of those off. And it should puff up for you. And we'll go ahead and let this cool, and then I'll show you what everything looks like. And here they are all finished. I never feel like the camera can really truly pick up the puff, but the puff is really nice on these. And remember that these glow in the dark, which I will show you here in just a second. Now I will say I'm a little sad because my and slid a little bit. I should have used a little heat tape, but truly that's not noticeable because that black really blends pretty well into the purple. But look how cute the trick or treat came out. Super cute. So let's go ahead and take them over and show you what they look like all glow in the dark. Here they are all glowing in the dark. How stinking fun is that? They're super bright. I absolutely love them. This blue is so pretty. And then the pink turns orange. And then the green is green. And then this blue is kind of a light, almost like a light green. It's really, really cool. All I'm going to do, I'm going to just show you really quick. So I've got a UV light. Just because obviously like I'm in a basement, so it's nice and dark, but I'm just going to charge it really quick with my UV light, and look at how bright that glows. Like that is so glowy. And these even react to a black light. So if you're going to go to a black light party or somewhere that has black lights, you can see that they do in fact react to the black light, which is just a UV light. But I just think this is super fun. The puff is great. I'll link it down below from Heat Transfer Warehouse. If you have any questions, by all means, let me know in those comments down below. Let me know if you are somebody who loves to dress up for Halloween. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and as always, happy crafting!